This
Thank you.
conference will now be recorded.
Hey everyone, welcome to our first live webinar. We are so excited to see people jumping on to this call as I speak. I am very, very excited to be joined today by two of my good friends, fellow MVPs. I'm proud to call them my colleagues and friends in this environment that we all work in, Business Central. This is our first of many of the Microsoft Women in MVP Tech series. So our goal here, I think someone just jumped on and they're not muted. If you can make sure you mute yourself. Thank you. Getting a little feedback there. So we're very, very excited. We are all Microsoft MVPs, and so we thought it would be really fun to have a Microsoft MVP Women in Tech webinar, just live, to talk about our struggles, how we got to where we're at, and just to kind of identify this missing gap in the market. We do have Steve Endo, who's joined us today, and he's not going to be part of this session, but I just want to give him a shout out before we get started that Steve actually identified and saw in myself and Mary and Kristen something that we didn't see in ourselves. It's funny that almost every Microsoft MVP I've met, and especially on the women, everybody is so humble. No one is like, hey, I did this and this and this, and that's how I became an MVP. I'm pretty sure when Steve asked all three of us to become an MVP or started mentoring us, each one of us probably had the same response that I did, which is, I don't have time. I don't know if I am doing enough. I just don't know if I'm that level. But Steve really just saw the need for women to become MVPs, for women to be part of this channel, for women to give their input. And so we all three got to talking and we're like, how do we inspire other women, whether or not you're in the Microsoft space or whether or not you're just a woman in the workplace, how do we inspire women to become leaders, to step up, to understand like how difficult it was in all three of our journeys. So our first webinar today, we're actually just going to be talking about our stories. How do we become an MVP? What struggles do we have? Why is it so difficult? Why do we not see a lot of women? All three of us have been interviewed by Mark Rhodes. And Mark, you know, at the start of each session or throughout the session, he just said, you three, you know, women, and there's a couple other that are joining the session today, you're an anomaly. Like there's barely any women that are MVPs of business applications and very little that are MVPs of Business Central and Nav. And so that was just shocking to me. I'm like, how is this possible? You know, in this day and age, we're in 2020, how is it possible that us three, and we don't think much of ourselves as far as like we're popular, we've done anything special, but how is it that we three have gotten to this level? So we're going to be talking today about that. We're going to talk very openly and candidly about some struggles that we have and why we don't think that there's that many women, because it is a challenge. So I'm so excited for you guys to join us. My name is Shannon Mullins. I am the Microsoft Practice Director for Morgan Franklin Consulting. I'm actually calling you, dialing in here from Nashville, and I live, breathe, do everything on Dynamics throughout the week, and manage a team here. I work directly on projects, and I've been in the Dynamics space for about 20 years. I have two boys, 16 and 11-year-old, and I'm just literally every single day working and striving in this workplace to get the word out about Microsoft, to make people's lives better, you know, with Microsoft. I'm just so excited to see all the people that are joining, and we're so excited to be here. So I'm going to hand it off to Kristen and let her do a little intro of herself.
All right. Well, thank you, Shannon. I'm Kristen Hossman, and I'm coming to you from the Denver, Colorado area. I currently work for Boyer & Associates as a BC consultant, senior BC consultant, but I also am a business owner of Mount Evans Consulting as well. And you know, Shannon came to Mary and I about a month and a half ago with this idea of doing this, and I'm super stoked to be a part of it. So thank you, Shannon, for that. And I'm super excited to kind of share, you know, where I came from with my career and how I got to where I am today as well. So Mary, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for everybody?
Hello, I'm Mary Thompson. I am located in the lovely South Carolina, and I work for Cooper Perry. And it's part of what we call our Dynamics Angel program. And mostly what I do is work in a partner-to-partner channel and helping other partners get started in their Business Central practice. And I really love it because it's just more of a community aspect in a lot of ways. So pretty excited to be here and help inspire other people to join our journey.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to kind of kick it off here a little bit. Shannon, why don't you tell us a little bit about where your career started? Did it start in technology? Did it start somewhere outside of technology? But kind of give us an outline of where you started and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, that's great, Kristen, because I think we all three come from different backgrounds. My background, so I started off as an accountant. I was an aspiring accountant in college and started working as a AP processor first. That was my first job, AP and cash collections, and started using Great Plains. Gosh, I'm not going to say when. It'll open up my age. But I started using Great Plains back when it was Great Plains, and that speaks a lot. And I started just, learning accounting, doing all of that. And I stuck with that a while. I was working in the mortgage industry right before the crash, and I had my first son. And during that time, I was really falling in love with just software and what it was doing to change, our lives just within the mortgage company I worked at. I was like, wow, software can really change this. And I just loved the design, and I had so much fun. And it's funny back then because most of you probably know Microsoft had its own group of consultants called Microsoft Partners. And that group actually was the one that did our implementation. And at the time, the girl I was working with, she said, you would be really, really good at doing implementations in software. Have you thought about doing that? And I said, no way could I do that. That's not, I don't think so. I said, I'm in accounting. I'm going to be a controller. I'm going to be a CFO. This is the road I'm on. I'm good, And so at that point, I just kind of put that aside, stay good friends with her. But then again, I wound up in the same position. So I accelerated my career. And before I got into true consulting, I was a controller. And I started redesigning a bar coding system, a distribution system for our company. And I really just fell in love with databases and report writing and problem solving. And I was like, this is so much more fun than month end, year end. And from there, I just decided I couldn't go back to accounting. I was going to take a leap and try to go into consulting. I didn't think I was good enough. And literally, behold, I should say, I got into a consulting job and I loved it. I started really accelerating in it, just loving helping people. It was funny. I was talking to Mark Rhodes about how I always wanted to be a teacher when I was little. Teachers don't get paid well. I do get paid now pretty well to teach adults, and I have fun doing it. And then I also do it for free, like events like this. And it's so fun. So that's a little bit about my journey.
Well, thanks for sharing, Shannon. Mary, let's go on to you.
Yeah, so like Shannon alluded to, we all have really different stories, but it's kind of funny. There's some ties that are similar as well. Honestly, I've really only been in the consulting space for 2 years now. Prior to that, I bartended a lot, actually, to be really honest. I was a single mom for a long time, and I was going to school full time, and I was working full time and taking care of a kid all by myself. And so I was doing that for a while. So I got some great customer service experience. And then from there, my degree is in accounting and business management. So then I was running a couple different small businesses. I learned this skill set. If you have to be crafty and you have to, what I'll call kind of hustle to make stuff work sometimes, to get it all done. And so gave me a great skill set to start running and help run some small businesses. So I did that for a while, and then I kind of got into manufacturing, worked there where I just handled everything. It was like, if there's a problem, I can solve a problem that nobody else wants to solve. And at that time, we were actually using, Dynamics AX. So it's kind of gave me this foothold. And then somebody was like, what's your long-term goal here? And I was like, I don't know, but I work way too many hours and I don't get paid nearly enough. And I just stumbled into ERP. Honestly, I had a lunch interview with somebody that used to work for my company that went to be a Microsoft partner. And I had a lunch interview, and it was between there and going to a CPA firm. And I was like, you have to decide at the end of this lunch if you want to hire me or not. And if you don't, that's okay, but I have other plans. So at the end of lunch, they said, yeah, we'd love to hire you. And I had no idea, zero idea what it meant to be a consultant. I just knew that I knew what AX was, and I figured it out. The job, kind of the first time that I went on site, I was like, oh, so this is what I'm going to be doing. And I would have to say, to be honest, too, I really struggled. I worked for a couple other partners, and I really struggled to begin with. I really just wasn't confident in what I was doing or how that worked, right? Because there's a learning cycle for everything. So there is like this major career change for me, even though I thought I knew the product. It was completely different. But then kind of getting the right support and being with the right company, I've been super excited to kind of like find my legs and become really confident in the last probably year or so. So I guess that's a little bit about my journey. So yeah, here I am.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Well, I'll go ahead and share a little bit about my journey. Mine's quite different as well from Shannon and Mary's. My career, as I call it, started working as a cashier in a grocery store. It was a small town, and the owners would actually let people come in and get groceries and put on credit their groceries, and we would send statements to them every single month. So that's really, I guess, where my love of accounting came from. As silly as it sounds, it came from a grocery store. I later moved to a big city, and I started going to college, and I struggled to figure out what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a social worker, and people kept telling me, well, they don't make a lot of money, and I care too much about people that I would be bringing work home after work with me. And, I really thought about, what kind of sparked an interest in high school, and I went to accounting. I started working for a casino, a really large casino in Minnesota, and I worked there and just kind of worked my way up from a cashier into accounts payable, then went into accounting clerk, and then an accountant. And through my journey there, the reason I was able to move around is because someone believed in me. Someone saw something in me, and they thought I could do it, and they were willing to teach me how to do it. And they let me grow, right? And then I got to a point where I was at this casino for 8 years, and I wanted to get out. Like, I wanted to move up. I didn't want to be an accountant my whole life. And there really wasn't anywhere else for me to go up in this organization. So I started applying at like Thomson Reuters, some big well-known names in Minneapolis. And I would get interviews all the time, for these roles, but they were like, you work at a casino, you're an accountant at a casino. And I'm like, an accountant is an accountant. Like, it still bothers me to this day that these people just wouldn't give me a chance. So I remember I was on LinkedIn, and I was at work, and I was so frustrated because I just wanted something different, and I wanted more responsibility. So I was on LinkedIn, and I saw this posting for Boyer and Associates, and it was a job posting for a GP consultant. Mind you, I was not a consultant. I had no experience whatsoever. And I remember going to this interview and sitting face to face with Jack Boyer, the owner there, and he's like, well, do you know how to use Integration Manager? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I can use it. And he's like, do you know how to build a new map? And I'm like, no, like, I don't do that. Like, they just show up and someone shows me how to do it, right? So we had kind of this conversation of like, I'm really a user. I know how to use, the purchasing module and the financial module really well, but I didn't know anything about how to set anything up at all, right? So I remember him calling me a week later, and he's like, Kristen, like, I love your personality. I think you'd be a good consultant, but I really need someone right now who can hit the ground running. And he's like, I'll call you in a month. And I was like, okay, like, I trust him, right? Like, in the back of my mind, like, he could just be being really nice to kind of let me go and just leave him alone. So I went on to work, for the next month, and then my phone rings and I see his name on there and I ignored it. Like I couldn't even answer it. I let it go to voicemail. And what I heard on that voicemail changed really my life and my career. He wanted to hire me and he was willing to train me. He had a consultant on staff that was willing to train me. So that's really kind of what, well, I mean, not really kind of, I mean, that's what sparked my career. Is I went to work for him, and I got that experience. And then I took that experience and I went to work for a manufacturer company out of Minneapolis, and I implemented GP, in 6 months for them. And then here I am today. I'm back working for Jack. So kind of a full circle, but for my career, it's always been proving myself and someone believing in me, right? That has driven my career. So there's a little bit about all three of us. Now, I did put together some questions for each one of us, and we're going to go through these questions, and we're going to talk very candidly in this next segment here about these questions, right? So the first question here is, can I be a mom and have a kick-ass tech career? So Shannon, I'll let you jump in on that one first. Shannon,
that's a really, really good.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you, Kristen. That's a really, really good one. So I struggle with this every day. I'll be honest with you. Like, I think before I go on to that, because I think this is a huge topic, I just want to say, I think that all three of our stories are unique, that none of us started thinking we were good enough to be in the roles we are, but we all worked hard. We all persevered. We all had people like Jack, who's amazing, and people in my career who just said, listen, you have what it takes. Like, you can do this. And all it takes from one person. So like, if anyone's on here listening and you're like, I'm not good enough, I could never do what these girls do. We're normal people. I know these girls very well. We are all three moms. We're normal people. We just accelerated hard. We had someone who believed in us, and we had to believe in ourselves. Like, to get to this level that we're at right now, I think you truly have to believe in yourself, and you have to say, you know what, just because I'm a girl, just because I'm a mom, just because I don't feel like I have what it takes to be an MVP, it really doesn't. It's just normal people working very, very hard and doing what they love. I will say all three of us, what we do, we love, and we love it with a passion. So that's what's exciting about it. But I want to answer this question very candidly, because I will say that this is one of the stumbling blocks that I personally think that it's not just an MVP struggle. It's going to be a struggle with any woman in tech. And when I say mom, it could be you're a dog mom, you're a cat mom. You have some kind of responsibility outside of the normal workplace. And when you go home at the end of the day, I used to joke with people because they would say, what do you do for fun? And I said, well, after work, I'm the CEO of my household. So after I get off work, I'm organizing events, I'm traveling, I'm taking people places, I'm making sure doctor's appointments are done, I'm making sure things are ready for the next day. I literally spend an hour every night when I'm at home just prepping for the next day. Everything has to be ready. I have to make sure, grades are good and school lunches are good. And there's times where I just miserably fail as a mom. I love that movie, Bad Moms. I was actually talking about that today with my hairdresser. I love Bad Moms because, it portrayed women so well that, sometimes it just really sucks to be a mom. It's very, very difficult. And we all have to admit that. And so in your career, you really have to find balance. And I think this is where so many women struggle, because we have to be multitaskers and we have to think about our family or think about our dogs or whatever the case may be. I mean, everyone comes from a different situation, and some women don't even have kids, but you've got this whole life outside of work. And then when you become an MVP, I will say this has been the hardest struggle, is that when Steve asked me to do this, I'm like, Steve, I don't have any hours in my week. Where are those hours going to come from? I have work, I have home, I have all these other things I'm doing. And he's like, I really think that you can do this. So like, it's a self-discipline. And so you can do it. you do have to be super disciplined. You do have to expect that you are going to disappoint people. Within a week, you are going to disappoint someone. You cannot make everyone happy. I'm actually coming through this whole year of making myself a better person and saying, I can't make everyone in my life happy. Okay. Something's got to give. So maybe it's saying no to a client that, hey, I need to move this meeting. I can't do it tomorrow. I have to take my child to the dentist. And moving that around so I can make that happen. Or maybe it's saying, you know, on Saturday, I'm going to take my kids. This is exactly what I'm doing tomorrow. I'm going to take my kids to a jump place. They're going to have fun. I'm going to be there and participate. But I'm going to knock out some blog posts and some things that I've been needing to do as an MVP. So it's a balance, and it's very, very hard. I will never say that being a mom in tech is easy at all. And I'll just add one other thing. I have noticed that when you are a mom and you are in tech, you will be treated differently by men. And it's just going to happen because, you know, oh, I can't be on this call. This actually literally happened to me. I had someone send me a meeting invite for a 7 a.m. call. I had to take my kids to the bus stop. They did it last minute. They sent it like 6:30 a.m. And I missed it because I was at the bus stop with my kids. And they said, well, where were you? You should have been on here. Well, I was getting my kids ready for school, taking them on the bus. Oh, well, that's not an exceptional excuse. And so to me, you know, it's before work hours, my kids come first. And so I was very frustrated by that statement because I'm like, if you don't feel like my family is important, like, am I truly important? And I really wasn't trying to make an excuse. I was just saying, hey, listen, I have to be a mom from this hour to this hour. I go to work, I come home, I'm a mom from this hour to this hour, and this is just how it goes. So I'm sure you girls have your own struggles, but that's really, you know, I think is the struggle is just finding that balance, you know, between home and work.
Yeah, I think you bring up a lot of really great points. There is a lot of balance struggles, and it's funny because everyone does their kind of own time frame. You know, for me as a mom, like I said, I mean, I was a single mom for a really long time, and I didn't have any help from anyone, and I kind of came from an interesting background. And so I was so terrified that I wasn't going to be able to like keep a roof over our head, right? I mean, there were so many times that I would work 12, 13 hours a day and do whatever it took because I was so scared to lose my job because I could barely feed us, you know? And so it was like, I would take whatever I had to. And it's kind of interesting from that perspective as well. And I did that for a really long time. And then I realized like I missed out so much on everything with my son. Like I said before, I went to school full time and I was working full time and my son was a baby and I paid a babysitter really well to watch my son and take care of him. But I missed the first couple years of his life really, you know? And then I graduated and I was like, okay, I can do better. But then again, I was still working 12 to 13 hours. And then when I started in tech, I was traveling all the time for 2 years. I was gone Monday, or like Sunday night, first thing Monday morning until Friday evening. And it was great because I was finally making more money where like I wasn't struggling from a financial standpoint. But then it was like I missed so much with my son again. And so finally, you know, I think everything happens for a reason. And actually last April, whenever like COVID hit and the economy like hit, I lost my job. And it was actually really great because I had like 3 months, finally, I was unemployed for 3 months, but it was a time to kind of slow down and have like a really good reset of what was valuable. And in this last year, like 2020 for me, I've spent more time with my son than ever before. And so it really put new things into perspective. So I really love like now that I do work from home, I refuse to travel anymore, you know, for the most part. So that's been really great. But then for me, like the way that I find my balance is that I work I'm a terrible sleeper. And so I will sometimes get on and start working somewhere between like 3 a.m. is when I started today, which is insane, I know, but that's my balance. That's like my struggle. And I'll work from like 4 o'clock a.m. to like 7:30, 7:45. And then I'll take my son to school and then I come back and then now it's work time. And then I work till like 6:30, 7 o'clock. And then it's like, okay, now it's time to be a wife and mom. So yeah, the struggle is always super real, but for me, I think it's really, I'm super biased, but my son is really, really awesome, and he has an amazing work ethic. And I say that because I think as a mom or as a parent, it's super important to kind of set that example. You know, I mean, my son, I mean, I love it that he thinks I'm really awesome, but he also thinks he's really awesome, and he has that same, you know, work mentality. He is just such a hard little worker because that's the example that we set. So I think while it is a super big challenge, it's one that's worth it because, you know, we're examples for our kids. So that's my take on it. Kristen, what about you?
Well, my take on it is very similar to your ladies. I think, you know, working in tech, you know, as a consultant, you know, like we are right now, you know, we have deadlines, we have projects, and to Shannon's point earlier, I think, you know, for me the last year, slowing myself down has been my biggest goal. And it's also been the hardest thing ever because we live in this world where everything is fast paced and people want information really fast. So, you know, you're getting emails and in the evening and you're feeling like you need to respond to them in the evening or maybe even sometimes on the weekends. So I think just kind of slowing down and blocking off calendar time. I mean, for me, I block off every Friday. I have it blocked off, and if someone wants my time on Friday, it has to get approved by me first, you know, because I was finding that I was working way too many hours. You know, my husband was telling me, you know, working in the evening, you have 2 little boys at home, they need your time too. My kids were coming in here, you know, when I'm on conferences and kind of, you know, just really wanting that attention. So I think, you know, that's probably the really the toughest thing about working in tech as a woman, but also as a mother, right? Just being able to kind of break things out. The pandemic did not help at all because now we are all home. We're working from home. You know, where are you guys currently sitting? Are you in your bedroom at your computer? Are you in a dedicated office? Because I know for me, I wake up and the first thing I want to do is go check my email. So I feel like there's really not a good work-life balance sometimes in that aspect, but I do feel like, you know, my husband's always reminding me, you know, make sure to get the kids off to school, you know, give them their attention in the morning so they have a good day, give them the attention in the evening as well. So, you know, that's just my struggles, you know, very similar to your guys's, but that's what I struggle with. All right, on to our next question. Let me get the slide here. How do I get the right support? So Shannon, I'll have you kick this one off again, please.
Oh boy. So it's really hard to answer this question, I'll be honest with you. I'm doing a lot of self-reflection this year and trying to find this balance because I feel like 2020 just hit me like a tornado or a hurricane, or I don't know how you want to say it. I would say becoming an MVP in 2020 was the best thing that happened to me. Obviously, so cool, was so blessed to find that out. But outside of that, 2020, I got acquired, my whole practice. None of them knew it until the Friday beforehand. We came into a new company where we never met anyone, still haven't met anyone. We're all working from home. We're transitioning clients. Now I have these MVP duties that I have to adhere to as well, and speaking at conferences and webinars and teaching and family and everyone's home and my dog and just all of it in 1 year. And I was like, and really as we came into 2021, I was telling someone, I was like, I honestly didn't feel on December 31st like anything was going to change. I had to change. I had to change my mindset. I had to change my perspective and say, what can I do for myself? So I am taking a lot of time to self-reflect. I will say, being in women in tech, something that's really, really helped me is just the community. I know Belinda's on here and Steve's on here, and I have such a good network. Hey, Belinda, such a good network of just close friends like Mary and Kristen that, you know, keep me balanced. Like, oh, hey, that's a really good thing you're doing. We're just very positive. But I think finding your right support network, staying involved in the community, telling people when you need help. You know, I'm the worst at it because I just want to be super everything to everyone. And I'm very, very bad at saying no. And so even in my job life, I'm like, hey, I can do that. I can do that. And then finally at like the end of the week, I'll call my managing director and just be like, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I'm doing too much. And I've started being honest. And this is something women go through, because I know they say men go through phases in their 50s. I feel like because I'm in my 40s, like I'm going through this phase of life where I'm like, just be honest with people, like I'm not okay today. Today's not a good day. I'm very stressed. I'm trying to do way too much. And just being there, but it's very difficult. But I think that if you can get involved in the community, and I will say this, even trying to become an MVP or trying to accelerate in whatever career path you're on as a woman, find the right women that are going to encourage you. Women are known to be catty. I don't hang around those kind of women. I have women that are supportive. I have women that want to encourage you. I have women that say, you know what, you can do this. Like anyone can do it. You can do it. We can all do it, and we can do it together, and we can do it well. And that's really, part of the reason I invited Kristen and Mary to the table is because these girls are just so inspiring to me, because they are encouraging. They reach out to others. We're all trying to mentor MVP women. And we're just really excited to have that support group. So that would be my recommendation, is just find your community, find your people, and stay close to them.
Yeah, I'd have to really double on that as well, to say that I think for me, it was really about being vulnerable, right? It's kind of like letting that guard down, because so often, it's like, we kind of come in at like this inferior level, right? And it's like, oh, we have to know everything, or you think that you have to know everything, and then there's so much pressure there. But I think that's kind of why I was surprised becoming an MVP, because I'm like, I don't know anything. I finally decided to like be vulnerable enough to be like, I don't know. And like sometimes it's like the most basic thing. I'm like, do you know how to do this? And so whenever you can just be you, then you'll really be able to find like the really, the right support group. And again, like the community is just absolutely massive as far as being supportive and helping you, and like finding like a support group. And I think that that's why I'm so passionate about the community and like pouring back into it and like reaching others. It's like kind of like a pay it forward, approach, because I often say that like I waited my whole life, honestly, to feel like I fit in somewhere. And now I feel like I do. I feel like I fit in with a bunch of people that I may never meet, depending on where COVID goes, right? But like I may never meet these lovely people that I call my friends, and I just know from Twitter and LinkedIn and emails and some team chats, right? But like amongst all these people, like I truly have a place, and that has been so massively helpful and encouraging. So yeah, just really be honest about what you need help with, and then that way you'll be able to find the right support as well.
Right. So I'm going to echo that as well, ladies, because I think for me, like finding my support is, that you have your home support, which has to be there and has to be good and good vibes to help you get through your day at work. But as far as work goes, my employer supports me. They allow me to do as much training as I need to. They allow me to volunteer like this for MVP things. So having a group where, like this, like Mary's talking about, like I've never met Mary in person. This is crazy, right? Like we're good friends now, and we talk virtually like this all the time, but we've never met. I would love to sit at a bar and have a drink with you, Mary, when all this craziness is over. But, ladies, we want to be your tribe. Like we want you to ask us questions, and we want you to feel comfortable in this setting, so that you can gain that confidence, right? Because we started somewhere, and we're MVPs. Sorry about the dog. We're MVPs, but we don't know everything either, right? So I would be the first to admit that. I was actually just talking with a really good friend last week about a project that I'm on, and I was telling him, the client asked me a question, and I was honest with the client, like, I don't know, but I'm gonna find out for you. And my friend was like, you're an MVP. You don't tell people you don't know. And I'm like, why not? Like, why not be honest? Like, I don't know the answer, but I'm gonna go find the answer, right? So it's good to have a good network where you feel comfortable. I know, Belinda, I email you quite a bit on Power BI questions, you know, and Steve, I'll email about, you know, development or customization stuff. But, you know, you have to feel comfortable. And like Mary said, let your guard down, because if you don't let your guard down, then you're not going to be vulnerable. You're not going to be able to ask those questions, and you're not going to be able to just kind of laugh at yourself for not knowing something, which is totally okay. Totally okay. Anything you guys want to add to that? That I feel like that's a pretty hot topic right there.
I have something I want to say, Kristen. It's easier for us as MVPs to say we don't know the answer. I think we need to help a lot of other women that are not MVPs be comfortable saying, I don't know the answer, but I can help you find it. And I think, I mean, we have a certain amount of credibility that Microsoft just gives us. And so it's easier. I feel the same way. If I don't know, I don't know. And but I have a good Rolodex file. I'm aging myself with the word Rolodex. But so, I mean, we need to figure out how to help empower women that don't have the benefit of being an MVP to say, you know what, I don't know, but I can help you find it.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that just because you don't know something doesn't make you unqualified to be an MVP. If you were in Microsoft and you are in tech right now, there will be absolutely no way you will ever know everything that's going on, because Microsoft is changing this at such a rapid pace that we are all on days clueless about what the name of the products are, let alone what our job is and what the software is doing. But don't let that discourage you, because I think honestly for all three of us, and I'm speaking on behalf of Mary and Kristen, we didn't feel like we knew enough. And that's sad, you know, that we felt that way, but we really didn't. And we still struggled even when we became that. But don't tell everyone, like, I'm not smart or I'm not good enough to accelerate in tech or to get to an MVP status because I don't know all the answers. That's not true. What Microsoft asked of us is, you know, go out and serve the community and teach others and be willing to help and be willing to just be those representatives out in the community, grow the community. And you're going to learn as you do that. I learned so much from my MVP friends, between blog posts, between webinars, between events like this. And I just go back and I'm just like, wow, like I'll be 100 and I still won't know anything. You know, it just is how the world's changing and how technology is changing. But don't let that discourage you from thinking you're not good enough, because every one of us has that potential in us. We just have to be encouraged, you know, and I think that goes back to it.
Right. Thank you. Mary, did you have something you want to add before we go on to the next question?
You know, I think all I was going to say is that, like, don't just really be open, you know, because it's kind of funny. I think, Kristen, one of the first times that we really spoke or talked was at like Dynamics Con, you know, just a few short months ago. And I got picked to do, you know, the thing. And then I was so like terrified. Like Steve's presentation was like right before mine, and I'm like messaging him on Twitter, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think that we have like the same presentation. I was having like a heart attack, and then we had a WIT group, right? Or so Kristen hosted a WIT group with Lisa Crosby, and it was very similar to this, right? Well, or that's what my goal or hope is that, you know, I found some support in people that I didn't know, but I was just like, oh my gosh, you guys, I don't think I'm good enough. And then they were like, no, we all feel that way. So so hopefully we can be that support group for all of you as well.
Right, thank you. So let's move on to the next question. Do I need to act like a man to be successful in tech? So Mary, I'm going to hand this one off to you first, if that's okay.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty funny. So you know, it's kind of interesting because there's at times where I felt like I did, right? Like there's a certain level that we have to like bring to the table, or it's like when I go on a call, people like look and they're like, where's the guy? Like we're missing somebody, right? Do we need to wait for some male for this meeting to start? And I'm like, no, we're here, you know. And so there's a lot of stress, I think, or pressure to really know your stuff in that. But I think that I've really just decided to take a completely different approach on that. And like, I'm going to be me, 100% me, all the bright pink, all the glitter, all of the girliness that I can bring to the table is what I've decided to do in order to kind of make a name, not make a name, but just kind of, you know, make a space that other people can feel really comfortable in and be like, well, if she uses thing as a technical word for the majority of her presentation and, you know, doesn't maybe quite fit the mold of what you would typically think somebody in tech would be, then why can't I? So that's kind of the example I like to set, at least.
Yeah, I'm going to add to that, Mary. So I'll tell you guys a story. I have lots of stories of being the only girl in the room, which is surprising. But you know, running a practice, I do a lot of BD work, a lot of sales work. I meet new teams, and unfortunately, with software, you're dealing with a lot of IT folks. I'd say that's probably my biggest struggle with this question is. I think that when you're in a room full of accountants, there's still a lot of females represented, but when you're in a room full of tech, usually there's not a lot of girls. And so I even made this mistake yesterday. I'll be honest with you guys. We were on a call with a client yesterday, and there was one girl that jumped on, and then a bunch of guys from my team and her. And I said, okay, well, you know, are you the IT admin? She goes, yes. And I said, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like, I was honestly expecting in my mind mentally that 3 guys would be getting on or 2 guys would be getting on, and it's just me and this woman that's serving us. And I was just like, I honestly told her, I said, I am so happy that it's like a girl to girl relationship because it's surprising, and it shouldn't be, but that's how it is. But I'll tell you a story. I went to lunch with some clients a few weeks back, and we're actually really good friends now, but this is our first encounter. We show up to lunch, and it was me, and it was a salesperson, and their team, it was all guys, which is fine. And so we go to lunch, and we start to talk about their software, and they said, they instead of addressing me as the practice director, went to the salesperson and started asking him technical questions. Well, he's not a technical person. And he goes, well, I don't know. And I said, well, I'll be answering any of the technical questions that you have. He's more of the face. And their faces almost dropped because they were just like, wait, this girl is going to teach us something. And so they were very skeptical. I will tell you, they were very skeptical, trying to question me, question what I knew, and really shouldn't be that way, but I felt it really was because I was a girl. But I will tell you that within an hour, they were just like, the trust had to be built. But within an hour, I had the trust, and they're actually some of my greatest clients now, really good friends, actually. They're always constantly texting me. But just the fact that I came to the table like that, and I was already undermined, and this happens a lot, especially because I'm in the sales cycle of Microsoft. It shouldn't be that way. Like, it should be what happened yesterday, which is 2 girls face to face, and we can get this done. But instead, it's this perception that because you're a girl, you may not know as much as your male counterpart. So you should always come to the table with a male. I don't want to be a man. I want to be a woman. I want to be an example. I want to be strong for other girls to say, you have this. Like, you can come to the table. You can speak intelligently. You might not know all the answers. You might not be able to answer all those tech questions. I'm pseudo-technical. That's my term for myself. But I can still come to the table with something, and I can be there. So I think that's the biggest thing to take away from this is you don't have to be a man. And Kristen, I'll let you kind of explain your side and what you feel about this.
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. I think in my career, as far as being a consultant, I've never really felt like a difference between, a male consultant versus a female consultant at the company I work for. We're all treated the same. We all are given the same opportunities as far as, projects that we're on or given the opportunities for training. But what's interesting is when I worked in corporate America and I was a controller for a company, I actually found in that environment, me being a woman was just, my voice wasn't heard. We had, for example, a male outside consultant helping us with things. And whenever he would come in, I would be like, hey, like, this needs to get done. Like, this is the process. They're not listening to me. And if it came out of his mouth, then it was okay. So I have personal experience in that, just not in the consulting world. But I know it's there. And I'm with Shannon and Mary on this, that, if as a woman, like, being empowered and feeling like you can just let your walls down and be vulnerable, those are really important, and it doesn't make you any any less, right? I think us as humans, just in general, we're so hard on ourselves, and you know, Shannon's gonna post this on YouTube, and I'm gonna rewatch it later, and I'm gonna be like, oh, like I shouldn't have said it that way. I should have said it this way or done this, or like, you know, I want to go exercise and get healthy, but then I go to the gym and I'm like, oh, everyone's looking at me, kind of thing, and that's just human nature. I think we all have those scenarios and those battles, and we're all fighting them, right? So you know, I guess to kind of answer the question, no, I don't feel like we need to act like a man at all. We just need to be ourselves at the end of the day. All right, so moving on to our final question. How do I know I'm good enough to sit at the table? So Shannon, I'll let you lead this one for us.
Oh, it's very, very hard to answer this because, you know, I still struggle with this. And just so everybody's aware, like within my job, I have to be at a lot of C-levels. I have a lot of interaction with controllers and CFOs and CIOs and CTOs and even CEOs at points. And it's always intimidating the first time you meet someone. But I've come to this realization because I've worked so closely with so many folks in so many industries and so many levels that at the end of the day, we're all people, right? We're all people. We're all trying to accomplish a goal. And I hopefully bring some kind of value to the people I'm sitting at the table with, and they're going to bring some kind of value from me. I'm going to learn from them. They're going to learn from me. We're all going to learn together. You know, I used to, when I was in my 20s and early 30s, I would be so intimidated by going into a room with this level of folks and just be like, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. But then at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? Obviously they've brought me here for a reason. I'm not here for no reason. And I bring something, and whether that's you're on site with a client, whether that's you're teaching someone at a conference, you have something to bring. Sometimes you're just going to learn something, and you don't. I've had people come up to me after conferences and go, what you taught me just like literally changed how we're doing what we're doing, or you just really inspired me to go up and speak, or something like that. And I didn't think I was good enough to teach anyone. And then all of a sudden people are coming back and saying, I really learned a lot. You inspired me, you helped me, whatever the case may be. And that, like, it hits your heart. You know, you're like, I feel like I'm doing what I'm passionate about. I'm sure Mary and Kristen, you guys feel the same way. But if someone watches a conference session and they say, something you said changed me, or I'm inspired by what you and Kristen did at Summit last year, getting on stage in front of 400 people and winging it. But things like that, it's just, you are good enough. Just don't tell yourself that you're not good enough. And if you don't feel you're good enough, find people that will encourage you to tell you that you are. I'll shout out to Steve again, because Steve, no matter what we said to him, that we can't do this, or we don't feel inspired to do this, or we're not good enough, he said, yes, you guys are. I see that in you guys. You can do it. And that's all we needed, you know, to get started on this journey. So don't undervalue yourself, I guess, is my real point.
Yeah. You know, it's so interesting. I guess I have a little story to share about, you know, sometimes if you think that you're good enough or not good enough. Back in October, I had the amazing experience to be able to speak at the Power Platform Community Conference. And, you know, I looked at the people that were presenting, I looked at the session topics, and then I saw, you know, TED-like talk, and I was like, oh, that's going to be my strong suit compared to these other people and the level of technical, you know, presentations that they were speaking at. Because I'm always like, oh, I'm not good enough to speak at like a super technical level. Like I can do entry level and that type of scenario. So I put together this presentation, and I mean, I poured my heart into it, and it was, you know, kind of about like my life and like my journey, but like how other people should be inspired and maybe, you know, some things that I've learned along the way. It was about like 5 minutes into it, and there was like 7,000 people, you know, on the call at this point in time. And I think maybe that was it was somewhere around there. There was a ton of people, right? And then these jerks we're like, next person, please, not technical enough. And there are some people that were so incredibly rude. And I was like, oh, what's going on? But then right away, there's a lot of other people that jumped in and were like, this, it's not supposed to be a tech session, right? So, but there was a second there that I was like, am I good enough? But then more so than the negative feedback that I had so many people reaching out being like, oh my gosh, you're such an inspiration to me. Now I'm so motivated to do this, or I'm so motivated to do that. And that was the whole reason that I gave that speech, right? That was the whole reason I was like, hey, here's the look under the hood. If I can do it, you can do it too. So I think that for me, it's like, how do you know that you're good enough to go to the table? Like, if you have a passion, if you have a desire, if you're willing to help, like we said before, if you don't know the answer, but you're willing to look for the answer for someone, then you're good enough. And you should know that. So there you go.
Yeah, Mary, I feel like you took what I was going to say there at the end right out of me. I was going to say, how do you know you're good enough to sit at the table? I think deep down, if you have an idea, if you have a voice, if someone is willing to mentor you, and sometimes it might just take asking, hey, you have these reoccurring meetings. Can I just start coming? Can I just start listening? And I think the confidence you gain from that, starts building, and you start feeling like you had a voice. Because similarly to Mary, I never thought that I could ever be an MVP. I've met some amazing MVPs at conferences, and I feel like they know their stuff. And I just always felt like I'm not good enough to be an MVP. I actually had a call with Belinda last year, early last year, and I was like, and I brought up MVP to her. I didn't ask her to nominate me because that was just something internally I always said I was never going to ask someone to nominate me. If I was going to get nominated, I wanted it to be because someone saw something in me, kind of like the history with my career. Someone saw something in me. And Belinda was brutally honest with me. She said, look, if you want to be nominated, like, start a blog, start blogging once a month. So I did. I started blogging once a month, and I just sat back and I kept doing that. And then Steve approached me in the summer months. And when he approached me, like, I can't even explain like how it felt. I was shocked. I was like, why me? Like, I'm not ready for this. Like, I just talked with Belinda about this, and like, I just didn't feel worthy of it, right? So, Steve nominated me, and I put everything, all my contributions, into the little MVP portal, and I sat and I waited. And when I got that email back in September 1st, when I got that email, I was just like, I was shocked. I was jumping around. I couldn't believe it. And then like all the excitement just like at one point just kind of crashed down, and it was like, I'm not worthy. Like, I'm not doing enough. So you kind of feel like, back to Shannon's point, like being an MVP, there's somewhat pressure, right? Because you feel like you're not doing enough at that point. I'm not blogging enough. I'm not speaking at conferences enough. I'm not mentoring people enough. But at the end of the day, like, if you sit back and you just kind of ground yourself again, you realize, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I'm a mother. I'm doing as much as I possibly can, right? So I think that's just an important takeaway for you guys who feel like you're just not doing enough, because I'm sure if you looked at it from an outside perspective, you are doing enough.
Yeah, and Mary, it's so funny, you just posted in chat, I'm worried about my MVP, so I just had to fill out my questions for this year, and it's the same thing, and so it's like you can be an MVP and still be nervous. I've seen MVPs be nervous that they won't get renewed, and so it's like, even this weekend, I was like, I got to get my blog post done, I got to get all my contributions in, like, I got to do all this extra work, but it's that thing that, I'll say this, I think all three of us were shocked when we got it. When I got my MVP award, when I saw the email come through, I was actually on a call, and I literally almost fell out of my chair. I was just like, just beside myself, like this is really happening, and I was excited. I was a little nervous. I was like, what does this mean? What do I have to do? You know, but at the end of the day, like I think that we're always going to deal with this. Am I good enough? It's not just you. It's every woman that I've known, because I think I feel like personally, and I don't know, Kristen and Mary, if you guys agree with this, I feel women struggle more with this than men, that we just don't ever think that we're doing enough or that we're good enough, or that within a week that you know, that we're just not doing anything, you know, to contribute to not only the MVP community, but our families, but our jobs. And so we all feel this way. So everybody on here, if you feel that way, I'll be the first to admit I feel that way. Kristen and Mary, I know you guys feel the same. So it's just like, don't feel bad on yourself. You're your worst critic. That's what people tell me all the time. You're your worst critic. They're like, you don't see your potential. You're your worst critic. You're always criticizing these things about yourself. But you know what? Something about that that's really good is it's going to drive you to be a better person. If you're your worst critic, it's going to keep driving you to become your best person. So I think it's pretty cool to just hear back from that. And I think everything that's going on in the chat is really good. So, yeah.
Let me go back a slide there.
Get this slide, yeah. But I just wanted to thank everybody for being on here. We're going to try to invite each month someone new to come on and guest speak with us and just kind of talk from a woman in tech perspective. I think it would be fun to kind of mix it up and do some MVPs and some people that are just inspiring to be MVPs. But we're so happy that everyone was able to join us on this Friday afternoon and listen to us rant on. And hopefully we inspired some folks to just go for it, go for your passion and do what you need to do. We're so thankful you guys jumped on. Thank you. Thanks, girls. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks. Everyone has a great day.